Hi, I'm Tim Mundorf. I'm the Director of Soil Management here at Central Valley Ag. This week's agronomy update is brought to you by the Nebraska Soybean Board. We're here in the Beaver Crossing innovation plots for Central Valley Ag, and we're looking at our soybean crop a little bit. So as we think about where we are in the season here in the middle of August, we're up to about R4 to R5 on our soybeans, meaning we've got full pods and we're beginning bean development, that actual bean itself. We do have a few pests that could still be giving us issues this late into the season. One of those would be soybean aphids. So as you're out there looking at your fields, maybe you're sticking a probe in the ground, understanding what your soil moisture level is, you might want to look for aphids. So aphids are a really tiny insect. They'll typically only be on the bottom of that leaf, so you need to get in that canopy, turn those leaves over. Typically it'll be maybe around a third of the way down the canopy, but just kind of work your way all the way down through that plant. Again, they'll be on the underside of the leaf, so turn those leaves over and look for those soybean aphids. If you find yourself walking through that field and maybe your jeans are a little sticky as you're walking through, that's generally an indication of the exudates. It's kind of a sugary exudate that those aphids will leave behind. We're typically finding low pressures right now, just a few aphids, maybe not hitting those threshold levels that would call for an insecticide, but they can blow up pretty rapidly. So just keep an eye on them. Other things we're looking for this late in the season in our soybean crops would be white mold. The challenge with white mold is once it's in the plant, it's really hard to kill with a fungicide. Typically it infects the plant around flowering. That's the time that you would need to make the fungicide application. But if you have it in your field, you want to know it because that's going to set some of your management for future years. That white mold, there's kind of a little cottony growth that you'll see a lot of times at the nodes. If you see that, a lot of times we can split the stem and inside there will be these little black sclerotia. And that's how that fungus survives in the soil later. Other things we're looking for late in the season, this will be more on the top of the plant. Sudden death syndrome, that's a fungal disease, or brown stem rot, also a fungal disease. They both look like a lot of desiccation, especially between the veins on those soybean leaves. And the way you tell the difference between the two is, again, split that stem. Sudden death syndrome, the stem will be a little more healthy with its pith still inside. Brown stem rot, that pith will be rotted out and you'll just see a brown pith and a brown inside the stem. That's brown stem rot. Be looking a little bit for your nutrient deficiencies. A lot of times you'll see those in some of your poor areas. As we move toward harvest and you start seeing the soybeans turn yellow and then drop their leaves, make note of those areas where they're turning yellow first. Maybe that's an area you want to go take a separate soil sample, see if maybe you have a nutrient deficiency there you haven't identified. Another insect we're looking at a little later in the season is Dectes stem borer. A lot of times it'll give some symptomology similar to brown stem rot or sudden death syndrome, kind of that interveinal chlorosis, the plant's just looking unhealthy. The way to look for that one is you can kind of look at the nodes, and a lot of times there'll be a little hole you'll see right at the base of that stem coming into the nodes. That's where that adult Dectes beetle put the egg inside to make the larva. Split the stem, you're looking for an eaten out pith and then a little tiny worm. He's probably about a ½ inch long and he's kind of got an accordion look to him. He's white, and that is the Dectes stem borer. This time a lot of things we're doing are autopsies. Now sudden death syndrome, brown stem rot, if you hadn't done a fungicide application already, might still make sense. We've still got planes out there. Aphids, again, that's a this year problem. You need to get out there with an insecticide and get after those aphids. But soybeans are really good at showing you your problem areas as they move toward full maturity and start to turn yellow and drop their leaves. Thank you for watching this week's agronomy update brought to you by the Nebraska Soybean Board.